Let's get going here. People can get to their Valentine's dinners. All right, we'll call to order the, what do we got? February 14th, of course, meeting of the Village of Cold Spring Planning Board. Chair's remarks, nothing. We've got some minutes, I didn't do sets of them. These are pretty straightforward. Let's actually just do them because I'm keeping current on the minutes so it doesn't hurt. Just want to review the same set, go through them quickly. They're pretty straightforward, they're only a couple pages. It's very calming. That's where we put the applicant.
Water torture?
Here's page one, down to the
Page
other.
one. There's not much there. Sorry, we just want to get through this really quick, and then we'll keep the minutes current.
Well, what Bella's gonna do is send a lady, and she knows with another, and,
What do you say about that? Did he say anything about her?
Patty Herbert. No, it was just today. I mean,
I thought they were gonna,
I
I
can't
thought it was gonna be for sale.
Yeah.
well, I don't think so.
Is that true?
I mean, she's been very,
Quiet.
into us, so I mean, she's asked this for answer, that's what I mean.
Good. You'll find out. Just keep.
But it was on the market for $5 million.
Yeah. Tough sale.
I don't think it's much.
Good.
of a-
Yeah, they're pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Well, there's all of it, the night.
Marco Hotel?
Did you submit?
Yes, it was amazed, he's just like, and then we're rebuilding the staircase, it's 9 steps down to water over riprap, And he goes, and I said, I don't want to put a rain on it, so they wouldn't want that water. Okay, you can just write on it.
Well, I just wanted to,
Have it fresh.
I think that this is written
The only thing
and
is,
it suggests this transaction.
not the requirement that you got one
And it's not the front door.
Right,
Through the front
and
door.
then I just want to
Well-
confirm, where's parking?
I'll change it now. They're only placed for the second floor.
And,
Right, and then I wanted to confirm that these
Hang
four
around,
items.
hang around,
well,
hang around.
no, listen, that's fine.
We did
Yep.
ask for them.
Yeah, and they're on.
Say no,
Yep.
that's too expensive.
Right.
And then we are responsible to tell you and Donna that it's good. That
Yes,
these
it's,
are-
it's 9 stairs going down
And,
riprap into the water. So, no, because they wouldn't want to see your video, so don't.
Bothers me,
And I'm
just
like,
bothers me.
thank God, it's like you're in a kayak.
Yeah.
About that
Mhm.
and the price.
Mhm.
And if we, a little bit.
How is that defensible, John? I mean, that, you're ignoring life safety.
I don't know how they get around the state code, there must be
And,
something,
I mean,
some
APA,
workaround in the executive
takes
law which
longer,
sets up
but
the
just-
APA.
It's unbelievably powerful.
Price should be another place.
I mean, they're written into the Constitution, and basically you just abide by what they want to do, just file a civil lawsuit. They don't, there's no like
They don't mess
workshopping.
around.
No, they're just like, they
Notice to
just,
remedy, it's just
yeah,
here.
yeah, it's just a
lawsuit.
civil lawsuit, they go straight to lawsuit. But they've been pretty reasonable to deal with. All good? Okay. Okay, perfect. Great, motion to accept the, I'm sorry, which ones? January 24th minutes? Motion?
Seconded?
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Great, so we got the minutes done. Thank you for going through that with us. Sorry, I forgot to make copies so we could work in tandem. Any report from members? Anybody? Okay. The no correspondence came in, so we'll move on to the public hearing. Where the reason we're all here. So, following notice was published in the last two issues of the paper of record. Please take notice that the planning board for the Village of Cold Spring will hold a public hearing on Thursday, February 14th, 2019 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter may be heard at the Village Hall, 85 Main Street, Cold Spring, New York. 10516 to consider the application by Hussein Abel Hadi Restaurant Space as owner for site plan approval. The applicant is proposing to convert existing restaurant space on the first floor of its existing commercial building to hotel use. The subject property is located at 124 Main Street, Cold Spring, New York, and designated as tax map section 48.8, block 2, lot 47. The property is located within the B1 zoning district and in both the national and the village's local historic district. So the application materials have been on file. Thank you for getting that stuff in. There was a blast zone of, there's neighbor notification of where we send that I had given you guys. Does someone have the certified return receipt?
Yeah, nobody can receive.
Okay,
But
but
I give it to Jeff.
Yes, I have the certified.
you have the mailing receipts?
Yes.
Okay, good. But were you on the email about the blast? It's just the adjacent neighbors. And
Yeah,
across the
I
street.
just have the stamped certified receipt from the post office.
Understood.
Yeah.
The question is for which properties?
For all the ones, there was
Oh, that was on the email.
That was on the
Okay,
email,
good.
yes.
All right, great. All right, good. We did get a letter from one of the neighbors that is actually in support. We'll read that in, I guess, during the after the board discusses the application. So I think we're all very familiar with the application, but the protocol is just to kind of walk us through it really quick. We have some public here, so the folks and the press here can. So if you want to walk us through what the application is, so people know what they're looking at. What's that?
For the record,
Yep.
you all know what we're doing here. We're converting what was about 69 chairs or 68 chairs restaurant into 4 rooms with bath to basically expand what we are presently as a hotel. So we're not changing any category in that respect. We still fit in the zone. The second thing that I was going to mention to you is, as a consequence of the change of the use, following the code, instead of having 23 parking space requirements, we really are now down to 4, in addition to the 5 that we already have received of consent. That's the first thing. Second thing, where we are right now, is we have been through a number of iterations, thank you, basically on constructive information, constructive questions that have helped solidify this at this time, and sent us up to the building inspector so that we could have a conversation with him and his comments about matters that are related to fire safety. And so far, where we stand and with what we've got, he unofficially, not going to write anything yet because we're a little ahead of ourselves, but when he is required to do that, so far, as I understand, there's no issue. So that's where we are right now. We got a letter of support from the neighbor to the east, Costigan, and Mr. McCaffrey's here, and I believe for support farther east of the property. We are leaving the second floor as it presently has been permitted without any change. There may be a change only in the sense that we add sprinkling for fire safety, but beyond that, I think we're status quo. If there's any questions, I probably can't answer them. So,
Yeah,
so I have somebody who does know what he's doing.
very good.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
The letters, in support, that are referred to by Bill, are they in the?
We have one, yeah, from
You
Costigan.
referred to a letter of support from Costigan and a letter of support from, I'm assuming.
No, Bob's here. I think you just said Bob's
He's right
here.
there.
What do you need?
Oh, but he referred to a letter of support from the.
From the
some-
east?
We got
from
a,
further east,
I
so
think just-
who is that?
McCaffrey.
Oh, okay, yeah, I assumed it was, but you said it was a
What-
letter.
What am I doing?
No, if I did, McCaffrey's here. He's gonna support the
He's,
book.
he's gonna
Yeah.
get public comment in
Okay,
support.
that's great, okay,
Yeah.
great. You said a letter,
Mrs.
I was
Costigan
wondering.
sent
okay.
me a letter,
Okay.
and I think he sent it to the board as
We have.
well. And
We have
she
a-
said
yep.
that the last sentence is, we support the activity.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, that's about as far as I should be going. After this, if you want meaningful conversation about the mechanics or so forth.
All right. One question I have is, so you're looking to purchase the stoop from the village and you've
Yes.
started that process. That would allow you to make it ADA accessible, right?
Yes,
Um,
it would when we can.
Right, so what's the status of that purchase?
We had got first we had to order a survey, we got a survey, and that's where it stands right now.
Okay, okay.
There's some issues that, I don't think I wanna discuss, but there are some issues that I wanna deal with at the
We're here to
developer.
discuss issues. I'm not, what's the point?
The point is that I don't think I should say this in public,
You
but
have to, if you're gonna talk about it with us at all, you have to say it in public because
Well,
it's not
I
subject
don't-
to.
If it's, the stoop isn't part of the application. so
No, no, no.
If he has to come back and if he ends
No,
up
that-
purchasing it,
That's the question,
and
is
he
really what
makes
the
any
status of it
changes,
is,
he'll
right?
probably have to come back for a
Right,
comment.
so that's basically, obviously, the planning board, looks at general life safety and looks at the, the actual, the planning aspects of the village. So obviously, a hotel, it would be nice if it would be accessible, obviously, you're gonna look at that, that's not, we don't go beyond that.
okay.
But we just kind of like to know where things are, so that's fine.
My answer is, it's not part of this application, is the easiest way to say it.
All right, very
Mr.
good.
Chairman.
Yep, understood, yep. We just wanna make sure, and we're not gonna beat the dead horse anymore, but, obviously the planning board would like to see that that's addressed. And we would think that you would want to as well. So obviously, any guest could stay at your hotel. So, but obviously, that's not our purview, but we certainly are not short on opinions. And that's the one, and that's, and just to, I mean, that's really the good thing, in my opinion, about boards that are made out of, property owners of the village as opposed to professional boards and stuff, that people are really kind of invested in the community and kind of look at that. And so I think that's why everybody's here, so. Who has, anybody questions for the application? I know we've been through it quite a bit. Dave, you might have some.
Yeah, I just have one question. Have you or whoever else is involved in it talked with the water department and also the fire department in relationship to the sprinkler system and what potential negative effect that would have on the hydrant system? The reason I'm asking is, let me just broadly explain why. As you know, either the structure is reasonably close or adjoining. Like to the west, you have basically almost a party wall. And to the east, now there's a gap of, I don't know, what is it, 4 or 5 feet?
5 feet.
5 feet, which is less of an issue, but still in proximity. And I was just wondering if you had talked to either the fire department or the water department.
It's a little premature to get into the sprinkler system because a flow test has to be done,
Right,
an application has to be made,
right.
and that would be putting the cart before the horse if we went through, went through the expense of all that
Oh,
without having,
absolutely,
approval on this.
right.
So that's actually part of the permit application.
Mhm.
I spoke with Greg about that,
Okay,
and the sprinkler application, the design and everything else will have to be submitted once we get through this
Right.
project.
Okay. Anybody else? We've been through it quite a bit.
I did wanna, ask if, so throughout, we've been reviewing this with looking at these conceptual drawings of the interior, and these aren't construction plans, and so my understanding is that this isn't the final layout of the interior.
No, it likely wouldn't be
Right.
by the time they get to construction
And so,
documents.
right, and so, at our last meeting, we reviewed with the applicants for the reduction of the numbers of the rooms in order to preserve maintain the retail space and, to align with the
Comp plan?
recommendations of
Yep.
our comprehensive plan. And so I was just thinking, on my way down here, I just wanted to, I know that in execution, the interior is likely to be different, and I'm wondering if there's any, it makes sense to preserve a storefront if it's a functional storefront, and I'm wondering, about the space are there any restrictions or guidelines that construction documents would adhere to preserve a viable and workable retail?
In my opinion, I think the storefront that they're showing, they have to maintain, right? The building inspector may move them around on the rooms because there's a lot to do with air, light, ingress, egress, and that may be furniture placement, paths of travel, and, so that may shift around, but in my opinion, I don't think you can kind of play with the storefront. Would you agree, John? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna sign a site plan, considering
That's
all the
it,
conditions
yeah.
are made, and, I guess they can measure the lobby area, the gathering space, and, we gotta keep
I
it
guess that's what
consistent.
I'm interested in knowing, like, do we,
I mean, you could,
does the recommendation to maintain the retail experience,
Basically-
define a, or prescribe a size for a lobby, right?
no.
That's my question,
No.
because this appears to be a reasonable size, but in execution, the rooms may shift, the sizes may need
Right.
to, and so that may reduce the size of the lobby, and I'm wondering about
Well, we could put, like, as a condition of the approval, we can put in, must maintain the gathering lobby as shown on the
I think
plans,
that's good.
dated, blah, blah, blah,
I would agree.
consistent, it
Right.
doesn't.
and is that sufficient to prescribe the depth and width?
Well,
It's a scale
all on
drawing.
the plan.
It
It's
is-
a scale
okay,
drawing, so you can
great,
get it off.
okay, that's
So-
what I would like to do that unless the applicant at this time sees that as being, burdensome to maintain that depth, because I appreciate that things,
Right.
the.
No, I already put it in as a proposed condition.
Okay, thank you.
Just so the survey listening in is aware, the comp plan, a village creates a comprehensive plan that is kind of this overview, these kind of references about what you want to achieve in the village. Some of the strongest language I've seen in the comp plan has to do with maintaining storefronts on Main Street, which is very smart. I don't know if anybody that's seen kind of, main streets or areas like go downhill, a lot of times the storefronts are boarded up. They're turned into residences, the Lower East Side of Manhattan was like that, they're turned into rental units. And then it really negatively impacts commerce, and it is smart to look at that. I even spoke to the Code Update Committee to say we also should go a little bit further to also say the obstruction of glass, a certain percentage of glass, just because I think that even like the Butterfield site, what is Success, which is at the first floor of building number 2 is rented, doesn't look like that because it all gets whited out because they can't use the storefront, so they where they want walls. So what looks like, soaked over windows is actually a Success, but it doesn't feel that way from the street, and the engagement with the public is gone, right? And so that's a very bad thing to happen on Main Street. It's not quite as impactful over at Butterfield Square, but the idea was on Butterfield Square that there was gonna be this engagement with that square and the people coming in and out. That's not gonna be the case. All those doors are locked, everything is frosted over. So I think it's good to look at the code to say, that Stephanie had brought up and had made us all mindful, she worked on the comp plan, that the comp plan prohibits the loss of storefronts, right? And encourages the reclamation of storefronts on changes of use. And that really that's meaningful. That's not just pretty stuff, that really keeps, a Main Street vibrant. And I, for one, and I think the rest of the board feel the same way, are very appreciative that you were so quickly to accept that and adopt it and change the plan. We appreciate that very much. And so because one of the rooms and then the center door was all gonna be a hotel room. So basically just kind of, it all gets darkened, right? And then the center door, which is the large welcoming door, is no longer a door. The narrow side door then becomes the main entrance, which is that's not, it's Main Street. So what the applicant was willing to do very quickly and very graciously and, and accommodating to the code and the comp plan is to create a storefront that's a welcoming area and a reception area for the guests and a lounge, which then keeps that kind of that engagement between, their property, their customers in the street, and I think ultimately creates a nicer experience at the hotel too. So we appreciate that very much. I certainly do.
Thank you. Thank
The
you.
only thing that I want to just be cautious about is that there may be a door or some other kind of arrangement that needs to be made on one wall or another wall here. They may actually require us to move a wall. So I can't guarantee that it'll be exactly the same area, but it will, in principle, preserve what you want to have, which is the storefront with gathering space behind it.
I think that's fine. I mean, look, if it's all the kind of the mushy words that are problematic in resolutions, right? That it's substantially, it's materially the same. And then it really is just kicking it down the road, right? I mean, we could do 5 to 10% or something, something small like that, but because so you have a little bit of,
Are there any,
But the fenestration with respect to doors and windows and stuff is not an issue. Really,
that's not changing at all?
yeah, I mean, what you certainly don't want to see is, a storefront and then 2 feet behind that a wall,
Yeah.
right? Where
Well,
it
that's
just
why
is,
we said we
Right.
were
Yeah.
gonna have a gathering room,
So-
gathering space.
and I don't think code's gonna allow you to do that anyway, because you need a safe room. I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta get in and
Well,
out,
that-
so I mean, but, and
Yeah.
Greg will, code enforcement will look at that.
In our conversation with the building inspector, at least in my conversations with him, there was this overriding issue of safety with respect to this gathering room. So that's why I piped up to say, that maybe we might have to modify some space here, and we may also have to modify a relationship with a door for safety, fire safety.
I mean, with that path of travel and a 42-inch door, I'm not sure what his concern would be, but, I mean,
No, I think you're fine, I think it'll
I'll
be
tell you
fine
why.
with that.
yeah,
I can tell you. That's the one answer I can help you with. Because of the size of the glass. The dimensions of the glass dictate that you have to have a door, a certain distance from the glass, but not too far from the glass. So I don't know what the parameters are, minor and the minimum and the maximum, but there has to be some sort of exit.
but,
And you have,
well, you should be fine, because the door and neither the door nor the glass are moving, so,
I'm just saying,
God willing.
But as long, I think
I'm
that
not
the
so-
point though,
Right,
that you're trying to
okay.
make is that we don't want to scale this out, and if it comes out to 18 feet, 2¼ inches, that we're exactly held to 18 feet, 2¼ inches.
yeah.
It might be
that's what I said,
17
yeah.
feet, or it
Is
might
the
be,
board okay with giving like a 5% leeway?
I think a 5%
from
variance
what's
is fine.
shown on these
Yeah,
plans?
I think that's good. Yeah, we can't hold you to 0%. That's not reasonable.
Stephanie, thinking about it?
5%?
I'm thinking, I'm doing math, leave me alone.
What's the square footage? What's the square footage?
What
It's
is it,
18.
what's
will this set a precedent for the entire village though, where you have to be so many feet back with a storefront?
No.
Or would that be up to
I think it's
some?
plan. I think it's plan specific, really. I mean,
5%
I don't wanna create an
on-
issue for somebody else where they come along and they say, well, we can't get this far back, but that's what determined the storefront on 124 Main, so,
But it's the use of the storefront, so I think it's partly related to creating a safe gathering space for a certain
Right.
number
Yeah,
of
the
people.
so
gathering
my mother
I
used
thought
to
you
say,
said-
when I said, what's for dinner, she said,
Yeah.
don't worry, you're gonna like
Space
it.
for
I mean, that's,
yeah. I mean, look. I mean,
No, I'm saying
Smaller.
anyways.
No, I agree. I think Blair's right. I mean, obviously you need a reasonable sized space because you have 9 hotel rooms.
Right, and we want a reasonable
you have
sized
the
space.
you have the possibility of 18 people being in there, right? So you need to look at capacity.
right.
But if some calligrapher comes in and just needs a beautiful little desk and a chair, and then all the supplies are behind the storefront, well, that doesn't need to be as deep, right? But I think it is application specific, and I think in your case, it's a gathering space for potentially 18 guests, right?
Well, yeah,
You know.
I guess that, right, if it was full capacity.
Everybody
Well,
comes-
you got it. Well, yeah, I mean, you got to plan to the extreme, right?
That would be the 18 that you're referring to as the 9 rooms, and we have 2 people in each room.
Yeah, which is a good weekend
That would be,
Yeah, we can. And we'd be very
that
happy.
is,
for all. Yes.
that's
Okay,
a smiling Jimmy.
If we can word that up somehow within the 5%, then I think that's.
Okay, great.
For example, 18 feet, if you have 5% of 18 feet, it's, let me see now, 9 inches.
Yeah, but that's almost a foot. I mean, that's a good,
29 feet.
yeah, that's a good, yeah, but like Layton's saying, as you know, as the person has to draft this, you can't hold me to an inch or two. I mean, I'm not gonna be able to, build a wall, 4-inch thick wall. So I mean, I think that should be fine. And certainly, we'll,
There's other considerations too,
Okay.
with the piping and the heating and things like that. Things like, or air conditioning, that things.
yeah, well, you're
shift it a
using a
little
split
bit.
system, so that's a pretty straightforward process. You're just
Yeah.
using small line sets.
Hopefully.
Yep.
Yeah.
If it's not, you've got the wrong contract.
I recommend that we agree with
5%? How does everybody else feel? Like a 5% variance on the size of it? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, very good. All right, very good. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, any more discussion from the board? Should we open it up to public comment? I'll read in the first public comment. We have a letter from the neighbor to the east, directly to the east, 124 Main. Chairman Francisco and I will attend the public hearing on February 14th, during which the planning board will entertain the application of Mr. Abelheady for a change of use to his property at 124 Main Street, the former Silver Spoon. I'm writing to express my support for Mr. Abelheady's application. I support his new ideas for business. I was happy to see the proposed plans approved by the Historic District Board, as well as the current site plan provided by Mr. Abelheady to the Planning Board. The plans, as proposed, seem to address concerns that I have regarding the building at 124 Main, which has numerous structural appendages that have been constructed in recent renovations which project over the property line that my property at 126 Main Street shares with 124 Main Street property. It appears in the proposed plans Mr. Abelheady intends to remove these encroachments from the east side of the structure, and that his building will once again be brought into its own property lines. My hope as the project moves forward is that the building code enforcement officer will make sure that Mr. Abelheady's project is constructed as approved. I appreciate the opportunity to express my support for Mr. Abelheady's change of use, as well as my concerns regarding our shared boundaries. Sincerely, SCGY Properties, LLC, signed Susan Costigan, member. Okay, do we have any public comment on the application? If you could just state your name, please.
Yep, I'm Eliza Starbuck. I have a wine shop on Main Street. I live on Main Street, and I'm just here to show support. I think it's a great idea, great addition to Main Street. I love the addition of the storefront and maintaining that. I think that was a really good piece to plan into it, and I think Jimmy does a really good job as a business owner and a community member, so I support his future dream.
Excellent. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for letting us know. Over to the east.
Me?
Yeah.
You,
What do you want me to do?
You don't have to stand up.
you have to stand up and identify yourself.
I
Catherine.
support the union now.
Wait,
You don't have to. You don't have to
Oh,
stand.
you don't have to
You don't
stand,
have to
you
stand
can
up.
sit. Oh,
There we go.
well done.
I'm supporting Jimmy for sure, no question about it.
Great.
And I think it'll be very good for Main Street and for the chamber and, and I'm a real estate broker. I sold my business, but I mean, if the people come out and they look in our windows and buy something, I'll be even more delighted.
Excellent.
Excellent.
I'm curious, obviously, based on your experience, which is extensive, how do you feel about the comp plan wanting to maintain storefronts on Main Street?
Well, I think that's important because people come up, we are a destination now.
Right.
And people want to have access to,
Coffee or anything.
I mean, those boats that come in with 400, 500, 600 people.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yep.
They come up, they do their shopping, they go to restaurants, but they go home and they don't leave their kids to educate them.
We can't fix that.
So I mean, to me, it's all positive.
Excellent. No, I'm just curious. Obviously, Bob's been a real estate broker, been here all his life too. So I mean, and I've seen Main Street go through a lot of changes. So I think the comp plan, I think they got it right, and it's good to hear, to let the folks know that worked on it, as well as the village board. That I think it's a good. I think it's a good. It's a good goal. I think it's a very good goal.
I had a call or an email from one of the directors of admissions to Monmouth University down in Monmouth County. I went to Monmouth for my bachelor's, and he wanted to come up. He was taking the boat over. I thought he and his wife had to go into New York to get the boat. I was totally wrong. The boat comes from,
Atlantic Islands,
what?
Atlantic Islands.
Well, yes, the Highlands. And I student taught in the Atlantic Highlands, so I know exactly where it's coming
Oh
from.
wow.
But the boat came,
And you
and
get it by
people
boat from
loved
there.
it, He and his wife had a wonderful time, and he still calls me for money all the time.
Now he can come and he can stay at Jimmy's.
Excellent.
Pardon?
He can stay at Jimmy's now.
I didn't hear you.
Oh, he can stay at Jimmy's now,
Yeah.
if he comes up.
In case you need overflow space. All right, any other comment? Anybody? Nope.
Motion to close.
All right, no more board discussion. So I think we're clear on the conditions on the resolution. John gave us the resolution review. I don't know if we wanna go through it.
I can review it real quick for you
Yeah,
guys.
that'd be great.
Sorry about the last minute, but, so it just kinda goes through the application, and the one question I had was the HDRB. Did you guys already obtain HDRB approval?
Yeah, we've been there.
Okay, you did, okay. So it
We
just,
had an acceptance.
right, it just references that they obtained HDR approval. It notes
Have you
that-
gotten the certificate of appropriateness yet? From the HDRB? Have they given you, I don't know if I
I
have.
haven't
paper.
seen it, but, you know, I attended the meetings and they voted in favor
Right.
of it, so.
And they didn't need a public hearing, because there's almost no changes on the exterior of the building.
Right.
So they just did it as a workshop, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Right, so the other thing is the parking waiver, I think it's four
So
spots.
it's 4 spaces, we should discuss that briefly. What has typically been grandfathered in is Main Street businesses have 1 space that are assigned to the business.
Mhm.
So I think we would ask for parking waivers for 3.
Three.
We would recommend 3. I remember when we did the upstairs, I said, you know, you were asking, could we grant that one? I said, no, you can't do it for upstairs. It's already used by the restaurant, but now you get that one to use here.
Okay.
You know, that I think that we would give the Main Street one to the hotel now, and so needing 4, 1's grandfathered in, so 3 parking waivers.
Three,
Yeah.
okay.
Does the board agree?
I do.
Because we all remember the application for the upstairs, and we said there are 5 rooms, and it needs to be 5 waivers, because even though it's a Main Street business, the Main Street business is still on Main Street operating.
Okay, and then the other thing is, this is a type 2 action under SECR.
Exactly,
because the
yeah.
New regulation changes. And, so the conditions was obtaining the off-street parking waiver for the 3 spaces. And I could draft a letter recommendation for you guys to review, pretty much using the one that we used a couple of years
boilerplate?
ago.
Yep.
And the other thing was, so I took a crack at some language right before I left, but I cleaned it up. So we'll have some language that it's a maximum of 4 hotel units on the first floor, and then it must show a lobby gathering area in the front, by the front entrance, in order to preserve the commercial storefront spaces. And the lobby gathering area must be within 5% of the dimensions shown on the approved plan signed by the chair.
I'm sorry, it must be,
5% of the dimensions,
I'm sorry,
within 5%.
within, sorry, okay,
Mhm.
it
And obviously, we have the plans that I'll stamp and sign when we get there, but can we just say the entire commercial space?
Okay. Mhm. And then the other
Good.
condition I had was approval by the HDRB, but it sounds like they've already obtained that. So we can cross that one off.
I mean, we haven't seen anything, so I think we should just leave it in there.
Okay, so I left it in there if
I'd leave
not
it in
already
there.
done, so we'll leave that.
Yeah,
And
and
then-
they haven't issued a COA, so it, you know,
Right,
So-
okay, so we'll leave it in there and then, subject to any outstanding fees.
Yep.
I don't
and the
know.
escrows, I think their escrow should be fine.
Right. So if there's any other conditions, I don't think so, but, you know, I can certainly add them and finalize when I get back to the office tomorrow morning and circulate it to everybody
Okay, perfect,
for your
right.
review and signature.
But we can vote,
So weird, we didn't do seeker.
that's right.
The changes that came in allow us, in the historic district, used to be that everything is a type 1 action, it has to have a fully coordinated review across all the boards. They just changed the regulations on January 1st, so just because it's in a historic district, it isn't triggered as a type 1, which is helpful, because it requires all the coordination of the boards, and so it should help compress the schedule a little bit. All right, do we need to, okay, well, I guess we should vote on the resolution as far as,
Yeah, you closed the public hearing, right?
no, not yet. I don't see, so you have all the the mailings, the green mailings.
Yes.
So obviously, the public has been notified. This project also was the first one, to my knowledge, that got the poster. What we added was another, what we heard a lot in here is that, oh geez, I didn't know, right? Because people aren't really leading legal reviews, you know, so, and if you miss, you know, 2 weeks, then you may not even know. So what we added, which I think is great, and the village board was instrumental, Aaron Wolf from zoning board picked up, you know, the baton on that one. We had started it years ago, but it just kind of fizzled out. But those posters basically just say, okay, this project is under notice. It's a public notice to just say that it's under application and there's going to be a public hearing. It's just helpful, just that you know that you can get people talking before the decisions are made and before things can't be turned back. And if neighbors want to talk to each other and say if they've got concerns, you know, all that stuff can happen. So hopefully down the road that can avoid any issues. So this is the first project that we put the poster up. So obviously people walking past the property saw that it was under review and by a few boards, and it was up for a public hearing tonight. So thanks to everybody on the village board. Aaron Wolf, like I said, was really instrumental in actually really kind of pushing that one through. And you know, Anne Marie Early and some other folks, and we're glad that finally got traction, because I think the more notice you do, the better. Even when it's negative, you're better off to find out before you start doing your work than after that your neighbor doesn't like your work and wants you to understand that later. You know, so I think that's great. So, and obviously it's a Main Street application, so a lot of people were seeing that window, so I think it's good that those posters are out there now. All right, any more public comment? No? So we can close the public hearing? I don't see any reason to hold it open. The notices went out, the application's been out there for a while, they've been in front of the HDRB for a while.
It's been in the
Jimmy obviously needs to, you know, get to work on his business. So I don't think there's any reason to hold public comment open. Anybody? Nope. Okay, great, so I think we can fully close.
motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Great, so we can, I think we've all reviewed the resolution with the minimal edits that we're doing, which is a 5% variance on the area variance on the storefront, maintaining the entire storefront. We'll leave in that, you know, that the condition of approval is that they get their COA from the HDRB, which sounds imminent, but isn't yet done. So let's go through and we'll do a roll call vote. With respect to this as amended, Member Hawkins,
Aye.
Wait,
what's
who's
that?
presenting the motion? You are? You mean
No, who presented it? No, somebody, who
Oh.
first?
I don't think anybody did.
No, we did. No, somebody seconded it.
Oh, I
I
did,
think
sorry.
Who
Who
presented?
presented it?
No, wait, did I?
I didn't.
No, it hasn't been presented.
I don't think it's.
Huh?
The motion was, the second was to close the public hearing.
Oh,
Oh,
right.
The
okay,
motion
got it.
is not,
Sorry.
the resolution has not been
Sorry.
presented.
Was it motion to?
Yeah, motion to present the,
Motion to present the
somebody do a
resolution.
motion to resolution?
Resolution number, right?
Oh, we don't have the number, actually,
Oh,
that's,
okay.
gets assigned by the village clerk.
All right, this resolution in front of me.
All
Motion
right,
to
do we have a
present.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, roll call vote. On to the roll call vote. Member Hawkins?
Aye.
Member Myers?
By the way, it's Meyer, no S, I.
Sorry.
Member Eldon?
Aye.
Member Marion?
Aye.
And, I don't think we told you this, actually. Oh, no, I don't, no, I think you were there, though. Judith is no longer on the board, shouldn't be up.
Okay, I just got it off the website, so.
Oh, well, yeah, there you go.
All right, clerk.
You probably weren't told.
No, he was.
Yeah, well, Stephanie informed me earlier this week.
Okay. Very good.
You
So-
voted, yes, you were a yes, right?
Yeah, I didn't mind, yes, and I vote yes, I vote aye. Great, excellent.
You get paid
So
more
it-
if it's unanimous, or?
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, and again,
And-
thank you
and
for,
thank you
thank you
very
for working
much
with us,
for
and thanks everybody for coming in,
responding
Thank you, Al.
for
to
expressing
the-
your opinions on the application.
to the comp plan.
It's very helpful.
Just hold the minutes and lots.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have anything else?
No, we,
Yeah, thanks.
Give me a call.
Yeah, we'll do, thanks, take care. All right,
Thank you all.
okay, great.
Thanks for everything.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
Do we have a second?
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Judy.
much.
Good luck. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Happy Valentine's Day, Jimmy.
Thank you. I bring you champagne here?
No,
Well, I got
no, it's
trouble.
okay.
You should have plenty of
No,
champagne.
it's
Now, now
good. It's good. Keep going.
Sure?
Stay the course, keep working.
I will.
Good.
I'm not saying. You sure I can bring a couple of bottles of champagne? It's
No
over.
champagne.
No, 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 thank you though, thank you. We gotta get home to the,
Good night.
champagne drinkers. Drinking champagne with another man tonight. So John, I called the town.
Close the meeting?
Yeah.
Carson